Well, hello, Indiana, and well, good afternoon, and congratulations. Let me add the panel's congratulations to your being here today, and we are looking forward to talking with you. Let me introduce myself to those of you who didn't hear me introduce myself the first round. My name's Andy Levy. I'm a trial lawyer from Baltimore, Maryland, and I also teach at the University of Maryland School of Law, and a proud graduate of Indiana University Bloomington.
I'm John Kaminsky, Director of the Center for the Study of the American Constitutions at the University of Wisconsin in Madison.
My name is Madeline Dunn, and I'm an historian with Delaware's Division of Historical and Cultural Affairs, and it's a pleasure to be back with you again.
It's a pleasure for us too. Good afternoon. My name is Inez Solo.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Lattis.
Hi, I'm Georgina Choros.
I'm Alexander Perobek. We are Unit 2 representing the state of Indiana. Our teacher is Mr. Michael Gordon. He's back there.
Hello.
And we are ready to testify.
Okay, well, it's no surprise that this is question 2, I suppose, and but I'll read it particularly for the benefit of our guests. It begins with a quote from R.B. Bernstein. Although posterity has tended to emphasize the work of the Constitution's framers in the Federal Convention of 1787, the ratification of the U.S. Constitution in 1787 and 1788 was a landmark in the history of government. What evidence can you offer to support or dispute this claim? In what ways, if any, was the plan for ratification an example of social contract theory? And what precedents were established by the ratification process, and why have they continued to be important? And now we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Rick Perry, governor of Texas, stated,
I believe that our federal government has become oppressive in its size, its intrusion into the lives of our citizens, and its interference with the affairs of our state.
This statement on April 9, 2009 was made in affirmation to Texas House Concurrent Resolution 50, supporting states' rights under the 10th Amendment. Governor Perry's fear of the expansion of power in the federal government is not a new anxiety.
National supremacy and the potential of a new King George were fears of the delegates to the Philadelphia Convention, and especially of the anti-federalists throughout the ratification process.
Although the framers reinvented federalism at the convention, the ratification was, as R.B. Bernstein wrote, a landmark in the history of government. It forced the Federalists to explain and defend the proposed Constitution. It demanded the addition of the Bill of Rights, and it involved the citizens in an unprecedented debate.
As the Constitution went from the delegates in Philadelphia to the Continental Congress and later to the state legislatures and the ratifying conventions, the debate intensified. Both the supporters of the Constitution, the Federalists, and their opponents, the Anti-Federalists, wrote newspaper articles, speeches, and essays debating nearly all clauses in the proposed Constitution.
The ratification process emulated Locke's explicit entrance into a social contract because the citizens of each state had to select representatives to approve the new Constitution if they wanted to create a union. In exchange for accepting the Constitution, currency would be stabilized, a national government would solve grievances, and combustibles would be contained. The 9-state supermajority used for passing legislation in the Articles of Confederation, gave the necessary consent to supersede the Articles of Confederation and implement the Constitution.
unlike the secret Philadelphia Convention, the state ratifying conventions met in full view of the people and gave the Constitution legitimacy because both the federal and state governments are, as stated by Madison in Federalist 46, substantially dependent on the great body of the citizens of the United States.
Beyond providing legitimacy, the ratification debates expanded the scope of political debate, thus establishing the precedent of the American people's voice in their government. Citizens could read or hear about arguments from all points of the political spectrum and form their own opinions about the Constitution. Most states removed or alleviated property qualifications that barred certain adult males from voting, and New Jersey even allowed women to vote from 1790 to 1807. Furthermore, 6 states allowed free black males to vote.
New states followed this precedent in involving the people in creating their state constitutions. Like the Federalist and Anti-Federalist debates, many state constitutional convention debates were published to inform the citizens. For example, in 1847 at the Illinois Convention, Thompson Campbell argued that their debates had to be published to aid the people in forming an opinion in regard to the Illinois Constitution's merits and value.
Although the Anti-Federalists ultimately lost the ratification debate, they forced the Federalists to articulate the broad principles and defend the minute details of the Constitution, leaving posterity with a written record of a new political theory.
As can be seen with the Texas Resolution, the anti-federalist fears are still present today. Texas addresses these fears by resolving that it has sovereignty under the 10th Amendment and that constitutionally delegated powers do not include federal mandates or categorical grants.
Texas' argument emerges from the anti-federalist success in forcing the promise of the addition of a Bill of Rights to the Constitution as a result of the ratification process. The Bill of Rights established protections for rights that we the people might otherwise have lost.
Thank you very much. Let me begin by asking you about the campaign in the press for and against ratification of the Constitution. As I'm sure you know, it was most of the articles, what we would today call op-ed pieces, I guess, were published under pseudonyms. Today, newspapers usually refuse to run such pieces unless they are signed with the real name of the author. Number one, why the use of pseudonyms at that time? And number two, are you troubled at all by anonymous op-ed pieces, I guess?
The reason that the Federalists and Anti-Federalists use aliases or pseudonyms when writing the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers is because they wanted people to read what they actually wrote, the substance of their argument, and not think about who was writing it and the sort of use an ad hominem argument against them that, Madison was writing this paper and so I disagree with him. And instead they could read what the paper was actually about.
In addition to my colleague's point, we also have to realize that the Anti-Federalists and the Federalists both adopted these names so that they could portray some type of idea. For instance, we see Publius of the People from the Federalists, or even Republicus from the Anti-Federalists, and Federalist Farmer, possibly in 16, showing the affiliation of Anti-Federalists. They were trying to provoke a certain identity.
Yeah, but it was spin, wasn't it? I mean, they were no more, Jay and Hamilton, Madison were no more of the people than most other aristocrats. So isn't that dishonest?